y'all have been in many times before. It's pretty early on a Saturday, last Saturday of October. And I just brought y'all to clean my bathroom a little. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this is because apparently there's potential for my little sister moving back in. And, you know, that's exciting. Woo. But that means I have to give up my own private bathroom. Not a big deal to me personally. I'm gonna go end up sharing with my mom, and she has this huge fucking awesome bathroom, master bathroom, and so I'm gonna be sharing with her. She has an extra sink in there, just for little old me. And yeah, so I'll show y'all that if I move down there, you know, when I move down there. And this will probably be one of the last little vlog clips that I have in this bathroom. She will be missed, but you know. But yeah, I just wanted to do like a quick clean, like a really quick wipe down of stuff because it is pretty gross in here. And it had been a while. So I'm gonna do a deeper clean when I decide to start packing my stuff up and blah blah blah, obviously, but this was simple enough. I had to get all of my little affirmations off my mirror. But yeah, it is still the morning time, like I said, and so I'm about to start getting ready for the day. Kind of have to use the bathroom, so leave. Hello?
This creator summarizes an instance where a girl got on TikTok and basically asked, "What is math? Where did it come from? How do we know it actually exists?" Da da da. And everybody on TikTok, everybody on Twitter cooked her. I mean, broiled her at 500 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? And it wasn't until a bunch of like physicists and astrophysicists jumped in and were like, you know what, this is actually a really great question. And so this creator says the way that she judges whether or not people are intelligent is if they ask questions. Another creator stitched this creator's video and said that they were a philosophy major and a Gemini, so they're always asking questions like this and how you should be programmed to also question everything and not accept things for how they are. And this reminds me a lot of the monkey ladder experiment, where 4 monkeys are lined up and there's a ladder in front of them, and atop the ladder are a bunch of bananas hanging from above. When the first monkey goes up to try to climb the ladder to get the bananas, the 3 other monkeys are sprayed with freezing cold water. So what do the monkeys do? Out of rage, they attack this monkey that's trying to go get the bananas, and that monkey falls back in line. Then the second monkey is like, okay, let me try, goes to try to get the bananas. The monkeys are sprayed with freezing cold water. They attack this monkey. That monkey falls back in line. So at this point, these monkeys know nobody's going up there to try to get those bananas. So one of the 4 monkeys is kicked out and a new monkey comes in. This new monkey has never once been sprayed with cold water. So when that monkey, of course, goes and tries to climb the ladder to get the bananas, all these other 3 monkeys are like, absolutely not. They beat him up and that monkey falls back in line. They keep kicking monkeys out until finally it's 4 new monkeys, okay? And when one of them tries to go and grab the bananas, all the other monkeys, these monkeys who have never been sprayed with water and have no idea that this consequence is even coming, start beating up this new monkey because they know when I tried to do it, I got beat up. And this experiment really just goes to show how society and institutions will brainwash you and indoctrinate you from birth into believing that things are just the way they are. So much so that you don't even question. You've never seen the consequence. You have no idea what could even really actually happen to you. You have no idea what the implications are of trying to even conceive something new, and you will get punished. So when people really ask things like, why does inflation exist? Why can't everyone just have healthcare? Why, what else? Why do we have to work 9 to 5? Why are there 5-day work weeks? Why can't it just be 4? These are not obvious questions. We have just been indoctrinated since literal birth to believe that this is normal, and doing anything otherwise, including questioning it, will get you punished and beat the fuck up, literally or metaphorically. And so that's why you can't really just assume anything to just be fact. Okay? This is like post-structuralism 101, right? There is no universal truth. There's only what you've been told and what's been regurgitated to you since the beginning of time. So all of that to say, adopt. You may not have any Gemini in your chart. You may not be a philosophy major. You may not even be like the most academic person, but that doesn't mean that you should just accept things as they come, as they're fed to you. Question things, question people, even if it's authority. These motherfuckers that are higher up than us in the government or in your institutions, they don't really know that much more than you do, honestly. Like, question things until you actually get an answer that suffices. As long as you're not intending to harm anybody or harm yourself. Question things until you get an answer that makes sense, and you'll find more often than not that a lot of this shit just doesn't make sense. It's just been the status quo for that long.
Seen that video where it shows local news people all saying like the exact same thing?
Sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets are true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their
This is fucking scary.
Yeah.
This is the scariest.
Well, that's propaganda. I mean, this is they're trying to bend a narrative in a very specific way.
I made you another board. This is the board that I'm hoping is going to light a fire under our arse so that we can get organised and act faster than we usually would. As a media person, seeing that they spent millions of pounds on just one medium in just 2 weeks, you go, yes, they have a big budget, but that must mean that they're also on a deadline. And then if you look at the rate that they've been killing people, you go, I think these people are on a deadline. And if we know anything, it's that nothing has happened by accident. All of the actions that we're seeing have been by design, and they're predicting our behaviour. So we're just going to get stuck in and see what they're predicting based on 3 concepts. The concept of story, the concept of narrative, and how information is spread when a story breaks out. When a story does break out, all journalists know that it kind of goes through this peak of sharing with everyone, and then everyone kind of understands what's happening, and then everyone starts being in the know. But here's the bit we're interested in. Once a story does break out, there's this little tiny piece of time, and this tiny piece of time is called the positioning land grab, where all journalists run to try and position this story in a very specific way so that it fits the wider narrative that serves their purpose. A really good example is what happened in the war in Ukraine. Now, the general narrative is that Russia is a baddie. Soon as the Ukraine war happened, it started pretty quickly being called an invasion. That was one of the storylines. The other storyline is that Ukraine is an underdog. The other storyline was that the Ukrainian president was a hero, and many other stories that kept on fitting into this narrative of Russia is a baddie and Ukraine is therefore the goodie. And that was just kind of how we perceive the situation. Now, if we're marketing a genocide, it's in our best interest that all the stories that come out fit our narrative. So our worst case scenario is lots of stories coming out that don't fit our narrative, because once that starts happening, just like the Iraq war, slowly but surely, some people will start knowing that we're telling lies. And what happens is people start being a little bit more privy to the reality of what's happening. Now, that happens quite slowly at first, but then eventually everyone kind of cottons on. And it takes a long time, but we do eventually get there. The bit that's scary is not just the people who know, but the people that speak up. And you can imagine that they're obviously less than the people who know, because you have to know to speak up. And that happens quite slowly again, and it kind of keeps on going. Just as an aside for all of you guys who are marketers, this is where we can segment our messaging quite nicely. For those in between believing what we're saying at face value and believing the truth, we just have to give them a whole bunch of confusion messaging. where we say it's complex and we just keep saying, what about Hamas? And then here, for the people in between understanding the truth and figuring out if they should speak up or not, this is where we put fear in them, and we tell them they're going to lose their job, we accuse them of being anti-Semitic, and we tell them they're supporting terror, because it's in our best interest to keep that quiet. Here's what I'm saying to you. They know these graphs very well. They've predicted these graphs and they've predicted these trajectories, and that's the rate at which they are killing babies, to be honest with you. So that's why you go, oh, that's actually quite an unprecedented rate to kill babies. And it's because we didn't have social media before. So there's a slight haste to kill as many people as possible and commit this genocide and get it over and done with, so that not a lot of people speak up. So this is what they know about us, and that's what they're predicting. They're acting on this basis, which means that necessarily their worst case scenario is that the truth is spread faster than they can control. And then beyond that, people speak up faster than they can control, because that is really the damning part that means that they have to stop acting in the way that they're acting. I do want to say that no marketer in their right mind would spend a penny on your silence if your voice were worthless. Nobody would waste their time. If it meant nothing for you to speak up, you wouldn't have seen a single ad that confused you. You wouldn't have seen a single headline that made you go, maybe there's two sides. Nobody would have bothered. They would have let you speak up as much as you want. So necessarily what that means is your voice has value. So this is my plea to get you to speak up and shift the narrative and start using these words. Some of these you've probably already seen on the internet, but I just want to put it here. Once we stop using the word settler and we start using the word colonizer, that's when we shifted the narrative. Once we stop talking about it as a war, we start talking about it as a genocide, that's when we shifted the narrative. Once everyone kind of knows that it's a little bit ew to drink anything from Starbucks or purchase anything from Starbucks, and boycotting becomes mainstream, that's when we've shifted the narrative. So that's what it means to shift a narrative, but this is the rate at which we have to do it, because they've already predicted this, and that's the rate at which they're killing. So if you were umming and ahhing about whether or not you as a white ally are needed right now to speak up, I hope this gives you the shove that you need. So if you at any point have gone, I'm a little bit afraid to speak up, that's your trigger to speak up. That's how you know they have reached you and it was worth reaching you with that messaging, so you should speak up.
Meanwhile, in Gaza.
احنا قاعدين بنموت هذه مش مجزرة. احنا كل مرة بنحكي لكم مجزرة هذه مش مجزرة، هذه إبادة ضربوا مستشفى. احنا لازم نطلع من المكان هذا.
Yeah, we have to leave. You know what's the thing? We have to leave. Look at the streets. We literally don't know where to go.
I'm still not getting over the fact that we are literally living in an unreal world right now. I'm not getting over it. I'm not, ever. I will never forget the world going crazy over 40 fake babies and not over 1,000 real ones. I'll never forget the world watching these IDF soldiers dancing on TikTok, posting it freely, and their comments going like, stay safe. Guys, just absolutely no words. None. Justify it for me, please. Justify it. I just want to hear justification for that.
Hamas.
Do I condemn Hamas is the question, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't condemn Hamas. I want them to kill everybody.
Well, I'm sure...
Is that the soundbite you wanted? Death to America! Of course I condemn it. I condemn the violence on both sides. Right. So I can't believe, I've seen this on TikTok. I can't believe you actually started with, do you condemn Hamas? What do you think? Do you think I'm Hamas?
Right, look, you're not on TikTok now. I know TikTok. You're obviously, you know...
OK, let me ask you a question. Do you condemn Israel?
I'm condemning people who...
Do you condemn Israel is the question.
Hang on a second. You're here to answer the questions.
Yeah, sure, but if you're going to ask silly questions, I can ask them
And I
too.
didn't ask silly questions. I'm glad to hear that you have condemned Hamas.
What did you expect me to say?
Hamas.
Well, of course I condemn the death of innocents.
That's right.
Release the hostages, but also release the Palestinian hostages. 15,000 of them. Actually, sorry, my bad. There's 2 million of them in Gaza and another 3 million in the West Bank. If we want to talk about hostages, how dare you insinuate that I'm a terrorist? Because that's what you're trying to do.
I'm not doing anything.
What do you mean by do you condemn Israel? Do you condemn Hamas?
You are talking,
Come on
your own...
That is so unfair.
No, nothing is unfair.
People in my family are dying, and if you are...
Both sides they are, and what we need to do, in a sensible way, is how do we resolve this? How do we resolve this matter? And when you have people like the ex-Hamas foreign secretary saying we want to annihilate Israel and we want to bring more October the 7th attacks,
I think that's
how
terrible.
do we therefore get to peace and a solution?
With all due respect, I know it's your show, but I'm not going to let you just gloss over what you just tried to do.
I'm not glossing over anything.
May I speak without being interrupted, please?
Yes, and you have for a while.
So what you've just done is start off just like every other racist media publication. This is supposed to be an accredited media source. You're interrupting me again. Can I speak?
Please,
May I speak?
Jube, carry
May I
on.
speak?
Yes, you can.
Okay. This is supposed
you are.
This is supposed to be an accredited media source, right?
It is.
Okay, so have you seen how you guys report on the protests? Have you seen it? What you type in, everyone at home, type in GB News Palestine. Tell me if it's not the most sensationalistic coverage of the protests that you've ever seen in your life. The only things these guys are doing is trying to get clicks, and they're trying to fool you and hoodwink you into thinking that we're animals and that we're racist and we support terrorist organisations.
Look, the only person who wants clicks is you, because you do, as you said.
Yeah, I do want clicks. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because there is unfair representation by the British media. Check out GB News Palestine. It's racism at its core. How dare you?
There is extremism in some of your groups.
Of course, my groups? What do you mean by my groups? Arabs, Muslims, content creators?
In the ones that have taken the streets.
Listen.
In 100,000 in the last weekend.
Of course there are. There is extremism in every facet of the world. If someone headbutted a police officer at the football, should we ban football for the weekend? Should we call all people that go to the football games violence and thugs? No, we shouldn't. So what you've done is disingenuous. You started with, do you condemn Hamas? For what reason? To frame the conversation in a light that I am sympathetic with terrorists. Did you know that my family are dying in this conflict? Let me ask you a question. Do you condemn Israel? Do you condemn Israel? You asked me if I condemn Palestine, right? Because I'm a terrorist sympathiser. Do you condemn Israel for what they're doing?
I believe Israel has the right to defend itself.
Do you condemn them?
Actions
okay, but do you condemn them for killing innocents? Be fair here. Esther, I've been fair. Be fair. Do you condemn them for killing innocents?
I'm saying the only way forward is to make sure we don't have the terrorist attacks that we did. And I'm asking you, because you're taking to the streets, and I'm asking you, the streets of the UK, and I'm asking, how do we then get this peace settlement you want, both sides? How are we going to do it? Give us your answer.
The first thing we'll do is we'll have to sack off any media publications that pretend that they're trying to speak the truth. But in actual fact, that what they want to do is divide us. I think you're amazing, Esther. I really do. You're actually one of the best at GB News. I'm sorry if I've seemed aggressive. My family are dying. And when you start off with a question like that, what that does is frame the conversation in a light that I'm a bad person. And you know it. Don't be disingenuous. You're too smart.
No, listen, my final question to you. When Hamas did those strikes on the 7th of October, did they know, and they must have realised, what the retaliation was going to be by Israel?
Do you think I'm Hamas?
No, I'm asking about the incident, and you're here to talk about the incident.
What connection with Hamas do I have?
I'm saying they must have known that what the retaliation would be, so they have put, Hamas has put both the lives of Israelis and Palestinians at risk. Is that right?
I would agree with you. I think they have done that. But would you also agree? See, look how I answer your questions. Now, please offer me the same thing. Just answer the question. What about what Israel are doing? would you say that they've put the lives of Israelis and Jews all over the world by ethnically cleansing, by kicking people out of their homes, by and you know this is a fact, continuously lying online?
Hang on, please don't put things as fact, continuously lying
so
online.
is it not, is it not a...
What they've done is
this is so unfair.
Themselves.
This is so unfair. It is unfair because what you're doing...
It's not unfair, but I want to thank you for coming in.
Of course you do. All right, have a nice day, guys. Thank you for letting me come in. I don't get to answer a bloody question. She gets to lambast me with bullshit and paint me as a terrorist. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Hang on.
Where's the free media? Is this media?
You're doing
Let me get out. I take the mic off. Have a nice day. Have a nice day.
You're doing a wonderful job.
I'm acting. People are dying, and I'm acting, apparently. Thank you, Esther. Thank you for having me on your show. Barely answering any of my questions. Get this mic off me, bro. This is racism 101. Have a nice day, Esther.
You've done... Thank you for coming on the show. It's a pity about his language. It's a pity that he couldn't keep his cool.
Palestine Terminology 101. These are the words you should be using when discussing Palestine and Palestinians. Since the settler colony of Israel was established in 1948, they've been using the power of language and words to control our narrative and establish their false legitimacy to the world. On top of Western media constantly portraying us as the villain and blatantly displaying their bias. Now it's time for us to fight back and reclaim our narrative, sharing our truth in the same way through the power of language and words. The biggest thing you need to learn from this video is that there needs to be a collective shift of perspective on what Israel is. Defining Israel as a concept. We have to shift from viewing this as Israel as a country versus Palestine as a country to viewing it as a settler colony called Israel occupying the country of Palestine. This is colonizer versus colonized or colonizee. Same way white Europeans landed in North America and decided to claim the land as their own, despite the native population, white Europeans landed in Palestine and decided to claim it as their own, despite the indigenous Palestinian population. Remember, settler colony, country, colonizer, colonized. So starting with the first word, Israel. When describing what it is, don't say country, say settler colony. Even when using its name, don't just say Israel. Say settler colony of Israel. Or if you're writing it out, put it in quotes. By calling it just straight up Israel, we're legitimizing the idea that they have the right to establish a colony on top of an existing country. But it's also the only thing that the world knows it as, so this is a little difficult, but it's kind of like best practices type thing. Now to describe the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis, Israelis are colonizers. Palestinians are the colonized. You can also say occupier, but occupier doesn't really acknowledge the tactic in which they established this false colony. So colonizer is a little bit more accurate. All Israeli cities should be referred to as settlements, Zionist settlements, Israeli settlements. Instead of Israeli citizens or civilians, it should be settlers, Zionist settlers, Israeli settlers. Their military, called IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, should be called IOF, Israeli Occupation Forces. When describing the Palestinians, we say indigenous, native, the indigenous population, the native people of the land. Now to describe Palestine, that is a country, the country of Palestine. Prior to 1948, it was a fully functioning country with its own economy, its own population, and it just so happened that the Zionists established this settler colony on top of that country. The UN does not recognize Palestine as a country any longer, but for us, it still exists, and we're simply living under occupation, living under colonization. This one we cleared up a couple years ago during the Sheikh Jarrah social media boom. We don't say the Palestine-Israel conflict, Palestine-Israel war. It's the Israeli colonization of Palestine, Israeli occupation of Palestine. We have to actively reject the word conflict and war. Anytime we hear that, we should be correcting the person and saying, it's not a conflict or a war, it's colonization, it's an occupation. War insinuates that this is country to country, and again, that's not the case. Also, using war makes it seem like it's a one-time event, like what's happening in Gaza right now. Like a Gaza-Israel war started 11 days ago, when the issue goes far back, more than 75 years ago, when Israel was established as a settler colony. Which brings us to the topic of Gaza. So during times like right now, when Israel is bombing Gaza, and remember, this is nothing new. Every year, Israel carpet bombs Gaza for a given period of time. So during those periods of bombings, do not refer to it as a war, we call it a genocide. So don't say Israel-Gaza war, it's genocide of Gaza. And this isn't an exaggeration or trying to be dramatic, it's an actual genocide. Gaza is not a country on its own, it does not have a formal military, and all 2.1 million people are living under Israeli military blockade. They can't leave, so they're literally just sitting there waiting to get killed. Often killed in the hundreds, if not thousands, which is a genocide. Oftentimes we hear people describe Gaza as an open-air prison, when a more accurate description is concentration camp or extermination camp. Prison insinuates that it's a population of criminals living there. The difference between extermination and concentration is based on timing. So just in general, the default is it's a concentration camp. People are living inside and forced to stay inside. But when Israel is attacking Gaza, during those times, it's better to refer to it as an extermination camp, because these people are trapped in by land, sea, and air and are being bombed. Thousands of people exterminated. So, extermination camp. So what do we call the movement to get back the country of Palestine? There's a few different words, but it kind of depends on what you're talking about. I think in most instances, the most appropriate word is decolonization, ejecting the settler colony and returning the land to its original state, the country of Palestine. We also use Palestinian liberation, which is just more generic and more broad. Liberation is a little bit more about the action that we're taking to obtain our goal. Our goal is to decolonize. How do we decolonize? Liberating the people. Decolonize is the goal, liberate is the means. Another word that falls in the same category as liberation is resistance. So like Palestinian resistance, as in resisting the occupier to obtain decolonization. Resistance is also an important word to remember for describing any acts or movements to reclaim the Palestinian land. Whether peaceful or non-peaceful, they're resistance tactics. Especially the word terrorism, which is the word used to antagonize and villainize Palestinians and Muslims and brown people in the media. Now, oftentimes in the media, when we hear about Palestinian refugees, they always use the verb fled or evacuated their land, which makes it seem like it was a choice that they had. Whereas the most accurate way to describe it is the ethnic cleansing of these people from their land. So instead of Palestinians fled their land, you say Palestinians were ethnically cleansed from their land. So where do words and phrases like apartheid, annexation, settlement expansion, military blockade, military occupation, how do all these words connect? To answer that, again, we have to take a step back and ask, what is happening to Palestine? And the answer is colonization. Colonization is the what? Israel is colonizing Palestine. Now, all those words, everything that's being done to Palestinians, everything that has been done to Palestinians, all of that falls under the umbrella of colonization. The slow immigration of a non-native population while pushing out the native population, which is the what. Underneath the what is the how. How are they colonizing Palestine? By ethnically cleansing the land of its indigenous people. In order to establish this colony, they have to cleanse out the original people there. They do so by land theft, annexation of land, stealing land from the original people, through apartheid, through a military occupation of the West Bank, through the military blockade of Gaza, acts done to Palestinians to make life there unlivable, and inevitably push out the native people. For things like false imprisonment, there are over 5,000 Palestinians right now in Israeli prison, with the majority having never gone through any court system. When you see Palestinian homes being forcibly demolished by the IOF, their government permanently closing off Palestinian wells by pouring concrete in them, or even the mass bombings of Gaza. These are all means of ethnically cleansing the land. Ethnic cleansing isn't just a one-time deal like in 1948 when almost 1 million Palestinians were forced to leave their land. Palestinian ethnic cleansing is an ongoing process. It started back in 1948. Actually, prior to 48, but that's another topic. It is continuing till this day. And that's essentially the summary of all of the words that I went through in this video. They all lead back to Israeli colonization of Palestine. That's all. Remember to keep talking about Gaza, keep spreading the word, and keep them in your da'at. Allah yahmihum.
If you're looking to avoid performative activism right now, the 5 Calls app might be helpful for you. You can find it in the App Store. It's completely free and really easy to use. So this is what it looks like in the App Store. This is what you're looking for. And once you get it open, it'll look like this. You can just swipe on over and hit Get Started. It'll show you immediately a bunch of issues. The one you want is right at the top. And it'll give you some information about that issue with lots of links in case you want to click out and learn more. Once you get to the bottom, you can set your location, go ahead and pop in your zip, and it will auto-populate your representatives. These are mine. And if you just click one, it'll bring you over to this page, which gives you their number, and you can click that. It'll dial for you, and it provides a script in case you don't know what to say. I hope that's helpful. I'm going to leave stitches and duets on for this one, so if you think it's helpful and your audience might want to hear it too, do your thing. Do your thing, TikTok. While this is absolutely the time for reflection and listening and learning, it is not the time for silence. So make sure you speak up and let your voice be heard.
Porque pare esta masacre, porque se detenga esto que no es guerra. ¿Cuál ejército tiene el pueblo palestino? ¿Cuáles son los recursos del pueblo palestino para enfrentar a una de las mayores potencias militares del mundo, apoyado por la máxima potencia militar que es Estados Unidos? Compañeros, compañeras, veámonos en ese espejo. Si hoy permitimos que se desarrolle ese genocidio contra el pueblo palestino, mañana puede ser contra nuestro propio pueblo con cualquier pretexto. Que el narco, que somos narcoestado, que no podemos resolver el problema y vienen y nos invaden y nos desaparecen.
Friends, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. There needs to be more eyes on what is happening in Atlanta because today 61 people were arraigned with RICO charges in relation to the Stop Cop City movement, a movement run by organizers, abolitionists, and land defenders who are trying to stop the building of an urban warfare training facility for Atlanta PD that would have to level over 300 acres of forest, use over 30 million taxpayer dollars, and sit right outside of a predominantly black neighborhood. Those people right now are going to go to trial going into next year, and they are by prosecution in court today being labeled as terrorists and militant anarchists. Y'all need to be very afraid of what it would look like for the Atlanta PD and prosecutors to get a successful conviction for 61 people to be labeled as terrorists because they directly oppose violent policy that the city is trying to enact with their money. You can care about more than one thing at once, especially when those things are vastly connected. Tap into Atlanta, please. To those of you that are feeling a little hopeless, I want you to see this with me, okay? This is London today. This was New York yesterday. This is the Jewish Voices for Peace. They shut down Central Station. They were arrested by the hundreds, but they still showed up. 1.5 million people in Turkey showed up for Palestine. Protesters shut down a football game here in America to protest. These people in the middle stormed and sat down and are protesting. This is downtown LA today, Chicago, Paris, Berlin. This is a Celtic soccer game. I'm not really a soccer person, but they told the Celtic fans that they could not show up with Palestinian flags. And look at the crowd. This was in India. They had one of the largest protests to show solidarity for Palestine. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I don't want you to lose hope, okay? I know it's been 3 weeks of this. I know it has been 3 weeks of just, it seems like we're screaming into a void and nothing's happening. But I want you to remember the Palestinian people have been strong for the past 75 years. They have been strong in the face of this. They have been strong through their entire family lineage being destroyed. I want you to remember them, and I want you to remember that the entire world is on their side. So continue to repost, continue to share, continue to talk to your friends and family, continue to boycott, continue to call your representatives, continue to call the White House, continue to do all these things that you might think is insignificant and you don't think it's helping. I promise you, it is doing a lot more than you think. So continue to do it, and I'm proud of every single one of you.
Why is it important for you to be here today?
Well, I'm Jewish, I'm Israeli. My parents were the only survivors of their families from the Holocaust. They both survived Auschwitz. I'm not going to support genocide, am I? I'm here with the Palestinians, and we are here with Palestine because we don't believe that what the British government is doing is correct. The British government is supporting this genocide. It's arming Israel, it's financing Israel. BBC and the other media here is supporting genocide. This is illegal, this is immoral. We don't agree with it. We will never agree with it. And as Jews, and myself as Israeli, I am totally against it, and we will continue to be against it. There are now more than 60 such events in the whole of Britain. People don't want to support this. They are against this government on so many other issues, but especially on this one.
And also, this didn't start on October the 7th. In 1948, Palestinian villages, hundreds of them, were demolished. Thousands of innocent Palestinian men, women and children were slaughtered, and 750,000 Palestinian refugees were created. That's when it started, and it hasn't stopped since.
I want to be very clear about something right now. All of us being arrested out front of Senator Bernie Sanders' office, our former staff, delegates and volunteers from his campaign and his Senate office. We were here today to talk to the senator. He refused to speak with us. Instead, he continues his complicity in the genocide of our loved ones in Palestine, burning his blood on his hands. He is a coward. We are ashamed, and there will be no more support.
You can't hide. Bernie, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. We charge you with genocide.
If you could just interact with this video, that would be much appreciated, because my videos are being shown to less than 0.1% of my followers, which is super cool. 2 days ago on November 3rd, there was a boat in Oakland, California that was being loaded up with United States military weapons that was being sent off to Israel. Yesterday, that same ship docked in Seattle, Washington, where I was born and raised, where protesters and activists blocked the boat for 9 hours. 3 individuals were arrested that day after hanging onto a ladder that was on the ship, again helping delay it. That same ship was supposed to dock today in Tacoma, Washington at 2:30 p.m. The word got around, people started to organize, and the boat got delayed until 3:30. What happened next is at 11:59 this morning, we got word that the ship was not arriving until tomorrow morning. It is currently 3:15, and that is the last update we have heard. To my knowledge, Tacoma is the last spot, and after it leaves here, it is going to Israel. The reason they are delaying the arrival of the ship is they're trying to wait us out. But I've been here since 10:30 in the morning. I got nothing but time. I absolutely understand if you are not able to be here in Tacoma physically to help block this boat from leaving, but there are still things that you can do to make sure that this ship does not arrive at its destination. But that's fine by me. They want to wait it out. I got nothing but time.
Yo, I killed a child today. But it didn't affect my smile today. Yeah, okay, you might feel some time away, but he died like 6,000 miles away. Honestly, that's too far to hear his bye-bye pray or feel the buildings crumble on his mother. He did nothing. He wasn't a soldier. I was told his family ain't militant. Still, I snatched out his innocence. I didn't kill him. I'll explain. Actually, that's dramatic. I did 22% because that's how much I pay on taxes. And my taxes went to bombs, and then my bombs went to Israelis, and Israelis killed the child. But my silence made me complacent. So, okay, I killed a child today. Fractional if you want to be factional, but when we die, they don't help us. I guess my actual compassion is transactional. Civil just means citizen, so this is a civil rights issue, but you don't care about that, do you? Unless it's just you've been through. I killed a child today. And I'm starting to feel remorse because I don't even know his name. But you killed one too. Do you know yours?